Feeding your cat might seem simple. Fill the bowl, walk away, repeat. But the way we schedule meals can have a huge impact on our cat's behavior, food motivation, and training success, as well as their general happiness and overall well being. Today, I'm joined by Joey Lusvardi, cat behaviorist and founder of Class Act Cats. And together, we're digging into what proper feeding schedules really look like and why they matter more than most people realize. Hi, Joey.
Hello, Emily. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you here to be talking about one of my favorite topics.
Honestly, I think this is one of the most underappreciated topics out there for cat care, where, like you said, people will often just be like, oh, you just put some, kibble or whatever in a bowl and then let them eat. And it's not that simple. I get a lot of people who I work with as clients that have behavior concerns because of how they're feeding their cats. It's very, very common. So this is a great way to keep your cat happy and healthy and keep you sane.
Right. Yes. And I think, so many common behavior issues can be solved by a simple feeding schedule change. Mm-hmm. So let's dive right into it. What is a cat's natural feeding and hunting behavior in the wild?
Yeah, so cats are fearsome little hunters, where they are going to go and they're going to stalk prey all day. Well, not all day, but they're going to stalk prey. Typically, they'd spend most of their time hunting around sunrise and sunset because they are crepuscular, which is my favorite word. And I'm not going to lie, I just wanted to say it really badly. It's so satisfying to say crepuscular.
It is. It is a good word.
They will spend time hunting small things. So they're used to eating like teeny tiny little mice or little birds or bugs, or they're not going to eat large meals. Like they're not taking down like a wildebeest or like a deer or anything like that.
Unless you live with a lion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you live with a lion, I'm pretty sure that's illegal in most places unless you run a zoo. So and also, like, even if you end up like getting a lion that's like tamed, like that just doesn't, I feel like at some point, like the lion would just be hungry and you'd look like a snack. I just wouldn't take the risk personally. It's like delightful as it seems to be, like, oh, I'm snuggling with my lion. Like like the whole being mauled thing is not on my to-do list.
No, not today.
But like house cats, they're going to be eating mice, birds, small things. So they have to catch a bunch of prey throughout the day, and they have to do this multiple times. So they're normally going to eat, I've read as high as 20 times a day. It depends on cat and like how much they're catching and like what size things they're catching. But they're going to eat smaller portions, but spread throughout the day. And that's also in line with their anatomy, which is about the same size as a ping pong ball or a golf ball, which is also a really good cat toy if you have a ping pong ball.
Yes.
We love ping pong balls around.
Yes, we do too.
So you can't fit much in here. Like you can't fit like full day's worth of food into this size space. It's just not going to work. And if you try and force your cat to do that, you're going to end up with the cat being like, I'm just not going to eat right now.
Yeah. So how does that natural feeding behavior translate to how we should be feeding our indoor cats?
Yep. So end of the day is you have to go with cat's anatomy and what they can fit into their stomach, and also what is normal for them in their behavior. And the easiest way to translate that into like an indoor cat is feeding your cat multiple small meals spread throughout the day. So rather than doing what a lot of people typically do that might work for other animals or for us and is convenient for us, I like to call it bookend style feeding, where you're feeding at the start of the day and the end of the day. You want to spread that out into, I've read between 4 and 6 seems to be the consensus for like optimal number of times per day, but it really does depend on your individual cats, and you kind of have to listen to them because every cat's going to be a little bit different. But usually I tell people like minimum of 4 times a day. If you can shoot for closer to 6, that's going to be even better. And most cats are going to appreciate that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts then on free feeding? Because I know that's a very popular way to feed cats because then they have control, right, over how often and how much they eat. So, what what are your views on that?
I have mixed feelings. Um, for some cats, it works. Like, I mean, end of the day is they're able to self-regulate. They can get in enough food, and they're not, too like ravenous. They're not ending up being, chonks, to use the scientific term. And they can handle free feeding. That's not every cat, and it is kind of not natural for cats to have that constant access to food. That's not like normal. Um, I would argue is it better than feeding twice a day? Maybe. But one of the problems that I have with free feeding is that from the cat's perspective, you're going to end up wasting food because it's going to start oxidizing as it's sitting out, and your cat's probably not going to like eating the kind of stale food that has been sitting there all day. Like, it's kind of like if you have a bag of chips and you leave it open and like you come back later, or like bread or something, you come back later and your
Yeah.
cat's gonna feel the same way. Like, they're
Right,
gonna be like,
and it doesn't even take that long for that to happen, right? You can open a bag of chips and leave it for 30 minutes or an hour, and the chips are already starting to be kind of stale.
yeah, it's or like if you like were to heat up like like coffee or something and it's sitting there, it's going to start cooling down and it's not going to taste as good. Or I've even read like with coffee, like as it cools down, like the bitter flavors will come out more. I personally just drink my coffee, so like I don't care as long as it has caffeine in it. So whatever, bitter, I don't care. But like that's going to happen with your cat's food. And again, they're going to be like, I don't really like this as much. Or it can start building up bacteria, or get like, again, like your bowl may start getting kind of nasty because your cat's like eating food and they're going to naturally drip saliva into it. And then like it just gets kind of gross as you think about it more and more.
Yeah.
Um,
And then, like with wet food, it dries out and gets all crunchy, that like layer of crunch across the top.
I've had where my cats have been like, going and eating their wet food, and for some reason they get a bunch of it out of the bowl. They'll just kind of like, "Rrr," and it flings everywhere. And then I'll come and like put it away, and I'm like, "Ew, there's this gross like dried like
Yeah.
crust stuff that's like all over my feeding mat that I have under it, and it just it's icky."
Oh
I
yeah, my cats will get it on the wall, like in front of where I have one cat. So all of my cats eat in a different room at mealtime. And one cat in particular, when his dish is always by a wall in our bedroom, and when he eats, he like does like this motion like with his head licking up, and it flings food all against the wall. I have to wipe that wall down constantly.
which oh, this is Prozac. He is
Oh,
speaking of cats. Hello, Prozac. Are you coming to say hi?
hello. He heard us talking about food and he's like,
He's like snacks.
mm.
Which Emily, oh, that's actually another thing that people will do wrong. That speaking of natural cat behaviors, that I love hearing that you're doing that is feeding your cats separately, because cats are solitary hunters, and we often think of like, ooh, our cats, they should eat near each other because like they're, like we will share a meal. Like if you and I were to be in the same place, I'm not gonna lie, we'd probably go get coffee. We've already established I love caffeine. So like something involving coffee or carbohydrates or something. And that's a normal thing for humans, is to share a meal. Like think of how many of our holidays center around food, or like there's some sort of food component, or
Like every
yeah,
single
like
one.
every single one. There's like traditional foods, like I mean, I guess no, I was gonna say like not St. Patrick's Day, but beer, or like
Flag Day?
corn as Flag Day. So Flag Day is, I guess, the one holiday. Poutine, what are you doing?
Hi, another
So
appearance.
this is Poutine.
I was gonna say it looks like a different cat.
Yep. You're apparently going to see all of my cats as flanks today.
I'm not mad about it.
They're very helpful, isn't that right, Poutine? Thank you. Um, so Flag Day is the only holiday that doesn't have a traditional dish, or at least that neither of us know about it. That's the important conclusion there.
Yeah.
But we celebrate things with food and with other people, and we are social eaters. That's a very normal thing for us to do as humans. Cats no. Like it actually can be really stressful for them to eat near other cats, and separating your cats when they are being fed is really helpful for preventing food stealing, for preventing tension between cats. Yes, I said preventing tension between cats. You should not be feeding them near each other in order to try and fix tension between cats. I realize that may be a hot take, but like it really like isn't normal for them to eat near each other. And we see a lot of cats that if there's another cat nearby and they're trying to eat food, they'll be like looking up constantly, and they seem really stressed. And it doesn't mean that they won't eat near each other, because food is really motivating. It's like if you were to put like a slice of cake in front of me, I am willing to do dirty, nasty, illegal, immoral, and potentially dangerous things to acquire said piece of cake. Like I again, caffeine.
I'm with you on that one. Sugar.
Sugar. Oh,
tasty treats.
I take it very personally whenever anyone insults carbohydrates. Like you are basically insulting me and my entire family and all of my ancestors at that point.
Understood.
So if you have a multi-cat home, feed them separately. And if you can't feed them in totally separate rooms, like at least having like some sort of large visual barrier between them or getting them as far apart as possible is going to be better than feeding them right next to each other, because that's how cats would eat normally. They're not really going to share. Like they're not really going to go out in like a group hunt or anything, or at least house cats aren't. So
that kind of makes free feeding definitely not a suggested thing then, especially in a multi-cat household, because that's, I mean, unless you keep your cats in separate rooms all day long.
Yeah. Or if you get some of the fancy, not inexpensive microchip feeders, which can work, you can keep track of like who is eating what, and like you can have multiple stations set up. But even then, like it's hard to regulate like how much they're getting and the other problem you can run into too is if you don't have like one of the fancy microchip or RFID tag feeders, how do you know that like all of your cats are getting the same amount of food, or there's no guarding going on, or there's no like territorial behaviors that are coming up where like one cat will be like, get away from my snacks, which is how I would feel if you were to, like, no offense, Emily, if you were to come in, like I were to have a cake sitting here, I would absolutely be like, get away from it, it's mine.
I understand. Yeah, when my husband and I go out to eat, if I get dessert, he usually doesn't, and he'll be like, can I have a bite? I'm like, no. You should have gotten your own dessert.
You just piss at him and like stay away from my carbs.
This is mine.
It belongs to me.
Maybe we're cats.
I've had that suspicion for a while that I may be in fact part cat, because I'm like, you know, I do like curling up like in a sunbeam and taking a nap, and like I like laying, you know, under a bunch of blankets and being toasty warm, and I've wondered for a while. I'm like, could I be partially cat? Like,
we might be. The evidence is pointing to yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with, you know, at some point, like it was one of my ancestors somehow like acquired some cat genes or something. And
yes. Yeah, or it could be like a evolution kind of thing too.
Yeah, we could be evolving into cats, which I would argue, like, as a species, cats are the superior species. So like it would absolutely be in line with like, you know, we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Or I am reading a book right now called Cat Gods, Goddesses, Deities, and Demons, or something like that. I might be mixing up some of the order, but like it talks about different cultures throughout the entire world, and like historically like the cat deities that they've worshipped. So it obviously covers, Bastet and like all of the Egyptian gods and goddesses, and it also goes into ones from other cultures. I think right now I'm in the Americas or something. I can't remember exactly which part. I kind of skipped around a little bit. But like it's really interesting
Yeah,
because
that's
like there's a
cool.
lot of like deities that are hybrid cat human or hybrid cat and duck or whatever it is that they're combined with. And like it's really interesting hearing how we've worshipped cats throughout history, and that they've really played a big part of our lives, even back to ancient times.
Yeah. Well, I think that everybody here can, everybody listening to this can probably agree that cats are superior and deserve to be worshipped.
I agree. Do you two agree, boys? Both Poutine and Prozac. Well, they didn't say yes because they're cats; they can't talk. But they're giving me a look that I'm interpreting it as being a yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're like, you should worship us with churro, and I'm like, okay, I guess, like, fine.
Your daily offerings of churro.
Yeah, like the daily sacrifice of churro.
Yes. Oh. Okay, so we've established that 4 to 6 meals per day is ideal for an
Yep.
indoor cat, and they should be not too big because their stomachs are the size of a ping pong ball.
Mhm.
Free feeding is questionable at best.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, I don't want to say never, because
Yeah.
there are some situations like I have read, and again, grain of salt with this, that if you have a cat that's ingesting non-food objects, that sometimes free feeding can help with that. I would argue that like you don't necessarily need to jump right to free feeding. If you just did the multiple smaller meals, it would have a very similar effect, and then they'd get fresh food. And I wouldn't necessarily go with free feeding as my first choice for that, but maybe.
Yeah, there might be an instance where it's the answer, but generally not ideal. And if you have multiple cats, they should be fed separately.
Yep.
So if somebody is not doing these things, what are some of the problem behaviors and issues that can result from inconsistent or an inappropriate feeding schedule?
Yeah. So I'm going to be really vague and say everything. No, but that's honestly the truth. I have had clients that have had every behavior concern you can think of that has been related to how they were feeding their cats.
Wow.
I've had inter-cat conflict. I've had litter box issues. I've had human-directed aggression. I've had destructive behaviors. I mean, obviously ingesting non-food objects, that one makes more sense. Like food guard, like if it is something that's kind of annoying, I have seen cats try and do it because they've been fed the wrong way for them and what they need. Yeah. I have had cases that I've been like, change your feeding schedule, and they will, and they'll be like, wow, this was magical. Like, holy cow, their behavior is so much better. They're a totally different cat. And even if it doesn't like fully solve everything, or it doesn't fix like the entire issue that they hired me for, like for example, inter-cat conflict, it absolutely will make things worse if you're not feeding them correctly. But it's one of those things that like most people will be like, okay, it didn't fully solve that problem, but they just seem more relaxed. Like people will notice positive changes in their cats with the feeding schedule change, where even if it doesn't fix a behavior concern, it can help with just their general well-being.
Yeah. It's like looking at the whole picture, the whole cat, and not just like putting blinders onto this one issue. Like, considering all of the factors that could be contributing. Yeah,
it's very rare that there's just a single like one-to-one cause. Like yes, sometimes absolutely there are things where it's like there's this one thing that's causing this problem, but oftentimes it's multifactorial. And one of the things people forget about is I'm not even going to call it the nutrition component, but like the how they're feeding
Hmm.
component, because they may be getting in enough food, but if you're not feeding them correctly, you're still going to run into problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's um that's really interesting because it's not, especially you mentioned litter box problems and things like that. I know those can
Mhm.
be so common, and that's not often the first thing that you hear people recommend to address issues like that. Um, so that's
And it's not going to solve every litter box issue, but like,
but it can help make it better, along with other things,
yeah,
be the thing that fixes it or helps fix it.
yeah, especially like if it's a stress related litter box issue where like that's like the connection between the litter box and, well, I mean, other than like anything your cat eats does eventually end up in the litter box, but like the connection is like the stress component, because if your cat is hungry, hunger is a very real
Oh
emotion. It's
yeah, we feel it.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, good, we're on the same page. Like hunger, like, you do not want to talk to me when I'm hungry. I am a monster. I will be mean. Like I
Yeah.
will be very like angsty, and
Oh yeah.
it's not a pleasant time to be around me if I'm hungry. You give me a snack and I'm fine. Like we're good. Um and cats can be same way, where they will,
Oh,
if they get
absolutely.
hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, one of our cats, Griffin, he gets hangry and he'll start like growling at everyone. I'm like, "Uh-oh, it's time for Griffin's snack. He's getting hangry."
Yep.
And then I'll give him a snack and he's fine.
He's like, yep, okay, we're good, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I Prozac will often go. I have this one particular Hoya that, thank goodness, it's not toxic.
Yeah.
And I do not know how he got started on this, but like if I am off by feeding him too much, like if I'm like, with a client, or like just I get distracted, or if for some reason I'm, like slightly late to feeding one of his meals, he goes over and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go have my salad to try and prepare my, like, tide me over until I actually get my food." And I'm like, "Buddy, like, please don't go eat the Hoya. Like it's like I'd like to keep that alive. Thank you. Like you're
Yeah.
lucky it's a large one and that it's kind of robust and it can withstand this. But like I'd appreciate if you did something like going and screaming at the fridge, or like basically anything else besides this, because
Yeah. Yep. Griffin, the cat I was just talking about, he does that too. I have a spider plant just off view here, and it's hanging from the ceiling. And I try to make it so it's like out of reach. It's not toxic, but I still, like you said, I don't want my cats eating my spider plant. His name's Henry. Like, don't eat Henry, okay?
yeah.
And Griffin will like try to position himself to try to get just like a nibble off of the end of a leaf, and I'm like, dude, come on.
Yep. I Poutine has jumped at some of my hanging plants before, and I'm like, buddy, like we just played, you've got plenty of other things, like you just got fed, like why do you care about the tassel that is like really far away on the macrame hanger that I have, my one of my Hoyas or my spider plant hanging in? And he's like, because I don't know, it looks like it would be fun to play with. And I'm like,
He's not wrong.
no, he's not wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm swatting at it right now, and it is actually really fun to play with. So again, he's not wrong. It's just I can't have him like yanking it off of the ceiling and like having a large hole in my wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Um, well, from a training perspective, I have
Mhm.
people ask a lot about their cat not liking treats.
Mhm.
I'm having trouble training my cat because they're not interested in treats. Have
Mhm.
you found that a feeding schedule can affect food motivation in any way?
Yeah. So it can go multiple ways. So if you change your cat, so if you're free feeding your cat, like they're never going to be hungry, or there's never like they're always going to know they have access to food. And so like that can absolutely decrease the motivation to be like, okay, I'm willing to work for snacks, or I'm willing to work for even like if they normally would really like their kibble or wet food or something, because you can use that as reinforcement when training.
Mhm.
Like it's going to potentially decrease their motivation right there. Now, you have to be careful because from an ethical standpoint, like you don't want to purposefully withhold food from your cat
Yeah.
because it's a little rude. However, like you can naturally time a training sessions, then it occurs when you'd feed them anyway. And then if they're not interested, they still get fed. And to me, again, you're not intentionally being like, oh well, I'm going to starve them or anything to try and make it so that they really have to learn how to jump through this hoop of fire or whatever it is that you're like that's so necessary for their well-being and their long-term health. Like it'll be fine if they don't learn how to jump through that hoop of fire. It's actually probably going to be better for them if they aren't playing with fire, but it's you know um like your cat is going to potentially have a harder time with being motivated. Or if you try training with them right after they've just eaten a meal, they may be less motivated. So timing your training sessions that they occur right before you would normally feed a cat, or as long as you're not withholding food, giving them part of their meal as like training, if it's something they enjoy doing, that can help. Or the other thing that can happen that people sometimes don't think about is if you have a cat that they are fed bookend style, where they're fed two meals and they get like desperate for food, like where they get so hungry that they're like, all I can think about is snacks, which granted is my natural state. So some of us learn to work through that, but that's not realistic to expect of cats. And they get so like fixated on like whatever the reinforcer you have is. I have had clients that I've had that their cat is just too into the treat and they get like frantic to
Oh,
get to it,
yeah.
even if they have a optimal feeding schedule. I'll be like, feed them a little bit first and then try doing training afterwards, because they're still going to be motivated, but they're not going to be they're not going to be
Ravenous.
yeah, like
Yeah.
their brain isn't going to be a giant pile of jello and
Yeah.
chaos. It's they're going to be able to be like, okay, I can think this through. Where they're like, yeah, I still really want, the snack, but now I'm not like starving and I can inhale it.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. If we were hangry and someone was trying to teach us something or get us to do something, like it's like, no, I've got one track mind right now. Like, I just want food. I don't care about what you're asking me to do or anything, so it's going to be the same for the cats too.
yeah, it really like there you want the cat to be motivated for training. You don't want them to be so motivated for like that they or I'm trying to think, oh, what's the best way to phrase this? You want them to be in a state of learning where like they are able to learn and that they're not so distracted by, the snacks that
Mhm.
they just can't think things through. They go into that, for lack of a better way of describing it, primal, like I need to get like lizard brain
Right.
mode, where they're like, snacks. It's the only thing I can think about is snacks.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Strategically timing training sessions can make such a big difference. And free feeding too, I know can really impact that too. Cause like you said, like, I don't know, if I had a cake right there
Hmm.
that I could just eat, or someone's like, hey, will you do this? And I'll give you a piece of cake. I'd be like,
I'd be like, I have plenty of cake.
I got
Like,
this over here. Thanks.
I'm gonna go for my free cake over here
Yeah.
that I don't have to work for.
Right. Yeah.
And I will say too, on the topic of cats not being motivated by treats, just a little tidbit to add on to that. I see a lot of people who they're like, oh, my cats don't like treats. And we'll dig into it a little bit more. And it turns out that they have tried basically the same treat. So I'll give an example here. Like churro. People will be like, well, I tried chicken churro, and then I tried chicken with beef churro, and then I tried chicken with cheese churro. And maybe your cat doesn't like chicken, and that's the common theme there, is that you're offering them like chicken churro, or you're offering them chicken like the Temptations purees or the cat it like creamy treats, or you're offering them chicken temptate like even crunchy treats. And again, they may be a salmon cat, or they may be like a tuna cat. I recently discovered that Poutine prefers salmon and tuna over chicken, because I was doing some work with him on counter conditioning him to new people, because we had trauma last spring with fire alarms going off in my apartment, and Poutine somehow got, it was a dumpster fire. Hopefully there was not an actual fire, but we had to evacuate multiple times. And he had a really hard time with it. And I think it's because when we would evacuate, like there would be people outside, and he now is afraid of other people besides me, even though he's normally a little bit on the outgoing side where he would generally like people. And I found out that like I have to give him like something salmon or tuna flavored when we've been doing this, because chicken, he will eat it in like a normal set of circumstances. But even with me being careful, it's not something that he enjoys enough to be able to, be interested in doing it in that situation. So you have to think about, what texture did I use? What flavor did I use? What was it, crunchy versus dry? Like honestly, like differences between brands, because
yeah, I was gonna say that too, because everyone goes to the like squeezy treats as the go-to like high value treat, and that usually is true. I mean, it's like crack for cats, right? Most cats are gonna be super excited about those tube squeezy treats, but your cat might not like a certain brand. Like my cat's favorite, generally most of them, their favorite is the Cat It Creamies that you mentioned. They'll eat churro too. But I tried another brand. I don't even remember what brand it was, but I tried a new brand, and they would kind of lick at it, but they weren't super pumped about it. And so you really do have to experiment with the flavor, the brand, the texture, like you said. There's freeze dried, soft, crunchy, squeezy. There's so many options.
Like there's the oh, have you tried any of the like, I'm going to call them like the non-churro churros that are not the squeezy churros, but there's like the pop-in serves, or the sprinkles, or the tidbits.
Yeah, the tidbits. I tried the tidbits recently.
Did your cats like them?
They did.
We are fans. We are fans too. And the pop-in serves, they're
I haven't tried those.
Oh, okay. Very strong recommendation from Poutine and Prozac. They look like a little Jello mold, kind of, but they're obviously meat and goopy, and they smell very stinky, which cats tend to like stinky things. And they get very excited when one of those comes out.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'll have to check it out. I've also found too that if I keep my training pouch filled with a variety of treats, like at any given time, my training treat pouch has crunchy, soft, freeze dried, and different flavors, different brands. And I usually don't even buy the same brands every time I go to the store. I'm like always like, oh, let's try this. And and so when I'm training or doing something with my cats, they don't ever know which one they're going to get. It's like a surprise. I toss out a treat, and that keeps their interest more too. They don't get tired of the same treat. It's like if we ate peanut butter and jelly every day. I mean, I actually really love peanut butter and jelly, but still I wouldn't want to eat it like for every meal. So like varying it up and not allowing them to get burnout or tired of the same treat can make a difference too.
I actually just had a client that like their cat was like, would be motivated for something. They'd be doing, the training activity, and then they'd be like, after like a day or two, they'd suddenly lose interest. And we tried switching treats, and the same thing would happen. And I was like, how about you just like every single time it's a different treat? Like just try, like intentionally do it. Like I'm a nerd, so I was like, make a spreadsheet and track which one you do. You don't have to go to that extreme, for the record. That's not always necessary, but like it can help the cats feel more motivated to be interested in the training because it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Or again, we've established we are both carb fiends. We like desserts. Emily, what is a favorite dessert of yours? Like, do you have like a favorite like flavor of cake or something?
I really love the vanilla cupcakes with cream cheese icing from the Publix bakery.
Oh, ooh.
Those are my favorite.
Okay, so we're gonna get the vanilla cream cheese cupcakes.
You're
If
speaking my language, Joey.
I like this, I like this. I really want carbohydrates. Okay, after we're done, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna just order a whole cake and eat it.
There you go.
That's the plan, is the conclusion. So everyone who's listening, your homework is to go order yourself a cake.
Yes, you have our permission.
Yeah. And as adults, if you have, like credit card and whatnot, there's nobody stopping you from eating a whole cake or ordering a whole cake. Like, no, there's no rule against that. That is allowed.
Nope. And you can absolutely have it for breakfast too.
Yeah. There's science behind that, probably. Like, nobody go look up the research on it. Like, just ignore, like, just trust me, bro. Like, it's
our own science.
Yeah, this is real science that has happened. It's very sciencey science and very peer reviewed by Emily and I.
Yes.
We are peers and we have reviewed it and it checks out.
Yes.
So let's say I were to give Emily, give you a bunch of the vanilla cream cheese frosting cupcakes. You were to keep eating that. At a certain point, even though you really do like them, you're probably going to be like, I could use a chocolate cupcake, or you're going to be like,
maybe some ice cream.
Yeah, or some ice cream. Again, like, it's hot out, you want something cool, or if you're weird like me, it's very cold and you crave ice cream all winter. I don't know why. Oh, wait, hang on. Do you also crave soup during the summer when it's really warm?
I'll eat soup anytime.
Okay, same. But like, I crave it during the summer. Like, it'll be really hot out and I'll be like, oh, I could really use some wild rice soup right now. Like, ooh, that sounds really good. Give me a bowl of minestrone while everyone else is like eating watermelon and popsicles.
Whatever. You do you, Joey.
Again, there's no rule against it. So,
that's right.
But a point of all that being is that, like, in the moment, you may not want the vanilla cupcake, and if I were to offer it to you, you'd be like, I don't really feel like
I just had 10 of those.
Yeah, I just had 25 cupcakes this morning. Because again, there's no rule that you can't do that. Or you may have been like, yesterday I had one that was like, kind of tasted a little bit off. You just kind of like, I'm going to avoid it for a little bit. We're going to take a little bit of break from it. There may be a day where you're like, oh man, Publix has been out of the vanilla cupcakes for, like 3 weeks. And then finally you come in and there's a light that shines down and a chorus of angels sings and there's glitter and there are the cupcakes and they call to you, Emily, come and eat us, consume us, Emily. Yes. And you're like, oh yes, you would probably tackle someone to get one of those cupcakes. Oh, yeah. You're going to be like, yes, I need these cupcakes. And so you may be more motivated at that point by, if someone were to be like, hey, if you were to like, I don't know, like do a handstand for me, I'll give you one of these cupcakes. You'd be like on your hand and then you'd be like, handstands. Yeah. Like, I will do anything for these cupcakes.
Yes.
Same applies to our cats, where there may be times where even something they really like, they're going to be like, absolutely not. I am not interested in this right now. Get it out of here. Like, no. Or other times they're going to be like, oh, what I would do for a salmon flavored churro. Oh, the things that I'm willing to do for that. I'm really willing to work for it. And having a variety is good because you have to listen to where the cat is in that moment. Motivation isn't static. It's very dynamic. It's going to be changing over time. And at different points in time, your cat may want something, and at other points in time, they may be not interested in it. And you have to listen to them and be prepared to shift gears. That's a very normal thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like, our preferences and the things we want change daily, if not, hourly, like, so cats too, they're not just going to be happy with the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah. And
Generally, most of
yeah,
the time.
there's gonna be some themes maybe where they may
Yeah,
show like preferences for certain things, or
yeah.
they may like over time generally like certain things, but it's not always going to be the same. Like it's not and that's okay. It's okay if your cat has preferences.
Mhm.
I, there's this weird thing that I've noticed that like I people seem like weirded out that cats will have like a preference, or they will or will not like certain things more than others. And I've had to explain to a lot of people that cats have preferences, and I don't want to, I don't know how to say it in a way that it doesn't sound really like judgy, but like it really is to me just kind of an odd thing that you wouldn't think that cats are like would have a preference, much like how each of us has a preference. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with it. They're not being picky, they're not being, any number of other horrible things people will say about their cats. They just have a preference. It's kind of like, again, we've established we both like carbohydrates, so like there's probably a lot of carbohydrates that we both like. I don't typically like pecan pie as an example. Like I
Mm.
will do dirty, nasty, illegal, immoral, and possibly dangerous things for other carbohydrates, but pecan pie, meh. um
Yeah, I could take it or leave it.
yeah, it I wish that like pecan pie, but with almonds instead of pecans. I feel like I don't know
Interesting.
if that exists, but
You
like I
should
want it.
make it exist.
Yeah, you need to come to Minneapolis and we'll do some like cooking and like some carbohydrate experimenting.
Cooking with Joey and Emily. That's gonna be our next podcast.
Yes, we can have our cats help us. Like,
Yeah.
we can train them to like press a button on like the mixer and like have them turn things like, oh, ooh.
Yes, this is a thing. We're on to something here.
They're both just like we are willing to help. Just not currently because right now we are motivated to nap.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of poutine and Prozac, what are their feeding schedules? How do you handle
Yeah.
their feeding schedules?
So I have mixed feelings on some pet tech, but one of the pieces of pet tech that I do like is auto feeders. Because fun fact, I'm not a morning person and I want to be asleep when my cats typically would like to have their first meal. So I have an auto feeder that goes off at 5:30, and they get or actually I have two of them because they're in separate rooms. So then they don't have to eat near each other. And I have it give them like I think it's like a 12th of a cup of kibble, just because that way they can eat. They eat it. I don't get woken up, and it's something that I know that there's a lot of like mixed feelings on kibble, but again, I look at it as being it's a treat for them, and
Right.
again, I everybody wins by me not waking up at 5:30 and being a monster. And then I give them 4 wet food feedings like spread throughout the day. And it varies a little bit because I try and like observe their behavior and see when are they showing signs that they may be a little bit hungry, because otherwise you put it out and they're not going to eat it because again
Right,
they're not
right.
going to be motivated for it. So it usually ends up being sometime around 9-10ish, early afternoonish, and then usually between 5 and 7, and then sometime like later in the evening around bedtime, usually around 10 p.m. ish.
Mhm.
I try and keep it consistent-ish, but
Yeah.
again, I also try and listen to my cats as to if they are sleeping, for example, I'm not going to wake them up and be like, you have to eat snacks now. I let them sleep, and then usually when they'd wake up, I'd feed them because at that point they're probably hungry and it's about a mealtime anyway. So
Yeah.
um, and feedings don't have to be spread out evenly. Notice how mine were like there's that middle of the day that they have a large gap there, and that's usually because they are completing their important napping duties during that time.
Yes. They're working hard.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't nap, for enough time throughout the day, the entire universe will collapse. It's that serious.
Yes. I too know what that's like.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, I like that. My cats get 3 wet food meals spread throughout the day, morning, like mid-afternoon, and then before bed because I found that before bed, it makes them sleep better through the
Mhm.
night. If I feed them too early, their dinner too early, then they're waking me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, like,
Yep.
hey, hey, come on. So they get their 3 main meals. And then, like, in between those 3 main meals, they get either like a puzzle feeder or a snuffle mat, or we do training. And so they're getting like little supplementary meals and snacks in those more like fun ways, I'll say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should say, like, I will also throw out there, I mean, we'll be doing training, or like, again, I typically think of training as like, I know it's like if I'm using like churro, it does count as like calories, or does count as food, but like to me, I'm like, oh, this is an enrichment activity for them
Yeah.
anyway. But like, yeah, and again, I will sometimes like substitute like one of the wet food feedings for a puzzle feeder or something like
Yeah.
that. Again, we have a lot of food puzzles around here. I have a giant thing of food puzzles because I have to test all the food puzzles for my clients, if you catch my logic. It's not just because I
Sure.
like buying things for my cats and I have a
It's a tax write-off.
yeah, I have to test them for clients and make sure
Yeah,
that they are actually cat approved.
that's right.
'Cause that's what I call
I
myself.
buy many things for that reason.
Yeah, it's again because you are so dedicated to, what you do, that you're willing to be like, I'm gonna just test this and see how it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, you mentioned how you have many clients whose behaviors have been solved by, or at
Mhm.
least helped by adjusting a feeding schedule. What are do you have like some examples that you can share?
Um, yeah, let me come up with a couple from like each of the biggies, like the most common things I see. So, I had a client not too long ago that it was litter box issue, and cat was peeing in the home, and it was happening right before mealtime. Cat would get really stressed out and would go and spray. And we adjusted their feeding schedule to, I think it was, they ended up doing about 3 times throughout the day, and even just that one extra meal. Um, Huge difference, like the spraying almost completely like stopped just from that. Like it
Wow.
was, yeah, I was kind of like, oh, like I was expecting it to help, but I was like, there might be another component, there may be other parts of this, and it was something I was like, okay, this is um yeah, like this is really
Yeah.
neat seeing it, that it really was like the stress that was coming from it, that was the biggest part of it.
That's amazing because that can be a tough problem, and I wouldn't have like a feeding schedule wouldn't have been something that like would come to mind as something that would affect that. So that's really interesting.
I have gotten to the point where with clients now, I have on my like intake paperwork, I have a whole feeding section, and
Mhm.
I intentionally have it so that people are required to answer all of the questions separately from each other, so I get all of the information that I need, because I see it so often that cats, that again, there's some sort of feeding related problem that's occurring, and I do just a basic screening of like, how are you feeding your cats, how much, blah 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 blah, like just making sure that like they're in a ballpark of not drastically underfeeding their cats, or they're not doing like feeding their cats once a day, or that like there's not some other problem that's clearly related to the feeding. And again, I see it with almost every behavior issue that you can imagine. I've probably seen a feeding related um, problem that has at least contributed to it. Inner cat conflict. I see
Mhm.
a lot of people that they will try the traditional advice of feeding your cats like on opposite sides of a doorway or moving them closer and closer to each other to try and introduce them, which is, we're trying to get away from that, because again, it's very stressful for the cats.
Yeah.
It also, I mean, there's other issues with it, but like one of the biggest things that we'll see is, again, the cats will be like, and they'll be sitting there eating and like like glaring at each other, growling and hissing, and then as soon as they like stop eating, they're trying to, you know, lunge at each other. And as soon as we start having the cats like be fed separately or move them further apart, like it'll improve it. Or I've seen where like people will have cats fighting and it seems to be worse around dinner time or around right before a meal, and they split up their meals and suddenly the cats are getting along a lot better. Or even if it doesn't completely help them get along, like it'll help improve the situation where the other stuff I'm having them do goes a little bit better. And we start noticing a difference between them. I've seen human directed aggression, where cats get really hungry. They're trying to get humans' attention. Human pays attention to them. They yell at them or whatever. And when they try and like bite them or scratch them, the cat's like, well, you're paying attention to me. And eventually they give in and feed them. And changing feeding schedule, once again, helps that. There's the more obvious ones of like, again, I've seen a lot of wild cats ingesting non-food objects that, that one, again, it's not always a miracle, but like it has significantly helped, like a lot of cases, like reduce having that happen where they will be like, yeah, I'm now not hungry. And they'll be less likely to decide to nibble on something that they shouldn't be nibbling.
Yeah. That's very interesting. The spraying one, that one to me is like, wow. That's interesting because I've had a cat who has had trouble, and Griffin, actually, the one, he's my problem child.
Yeah, you all have one problem child.
And I have recently changed his feeding schedule, actually, and have noticed a pretty big improvement in his general overall mood. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. And that's also actually a really good example of how every cat is different, because he's been on the same feeding schedule. We have 6 cats, okay? And he's been on the same feeding schedule as everyone else, and everyone else is fine. You know, they get 3 main meals with 2 or 3 like smaller supplementary meals, and everybody's fine except Griffin. And so I've recently been giving him just change the schedule and the amount and like the type of meal, like if he's getting some dry food or wet food or whatever, and his mood has improved pretty substantially. So you know, what works for one cat won't always work for another. And I think that's important to point out and know, especially if you live in a multi-cat household, because I think it's so easy to be like, well, my other cat's fine. You know, why isn't it working with with my other cat? It's like, no 2 people are alike. No 2 cats are alike.
Yeah, you really, a lot of like caring for your cats is there are certain things that like are generally good practice, like that are, we know about cats in general, but you have to be ready to adapt that to your own individual cat. And what works for one cat is not going to work for another cat. Like you have to be prepared that every cat is an individual, and listening to them and listening to what they're communicating with you is, it will help solve so many issues. Because if you're like, well, I have to do it X way, and your cat is like, oh, can we please do something slightly different? And you ignore that communication, you're going to run into behavior issues. Like, end of the day is you're going to not like the results.
Yep. Well, if someone is currently free feeding or only doing the bookend meals, like you said, like the 2 meals, breakfast and dinner, how can they transition to doing multiple meals through the day?
Yeah. So as always, it depends on your individual cat. So this is like general what what you should do. Some cats are going to be fine going faster. Some cats are going to be fine going slower. Or they're going to need to go a little bit slower because otherwise it'll be too stressful for them. But any change you make, you want to do it gradually, and it depends on the cat. So I typically suggest that people start by, for if you're doing the bookend style feeding, I'd suggest like the first day that you make the change, you feed them normal amount that you're giving them for their first meal. And then I did not mean to set off those balloons, but we're so excited about changing our cats' feeding schedule that balloons are here.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, woo, switching feeding schedules. But what you do is you take that your normal second meal and you split the total amount that you're doing in half. So you do half of that earlier in the day, and then the second half you can do later in the day around the same time that you feed it. And you start out by splitting that second meal, because then your cat isn't going to think, oh, I'm being cheated of a meal or anything like that. They still have that normal first meal, and they're going to be less likely to be like hangry about it.
Mhm.
Instead, they're going to be like, ooh, extra food. And they will be like, this is a fun bonus, even though you are giving them less food for the actual, like, now would be the third meal, but the equivalent of your previous second meal. And they're not going to be as likely to be stressed out by the fact that, okay, that second meal or that last meal is now less. They're going to be like, well, I know that I'm going to have another meal coming same time, once you've done that for a couple of days. And some cats, you could potentially split up their meals like pretty quickly. Some of them, you're gonna want to pause at this for, a week-ish, or maybe longer than that. Again, listen to your own cat. But once they're used to that, then you can try splitting up the morning meal. That one's a little harder to do because you may not want to get up earlier and feed your cats earlier, as I would not want to do.
Hey, but that's what those automatic feeders are for, right?
That's where automatic feeders come in. Again, your cat is going to know that there's other meals coming in, or that there's more food coming in later in the day. So like, it's going to be less stressful for them at that point to split up that meal. So you could try just splitting it in half and see how that goes. Some cats would be fine with that, especially if you did it gradually, where you do like half their meal and then like half an hour later you did half of it and then you back that up. That's going to be a little bit less stressful than just, fully splitting it in half and going to the final schedule that you want. Some cats, like, you gradually reduce the amount that you're giving for that first meal, and then you add it to like the whatever time you're feeding them for their fourth meal, or however many meals you're doing. The key common theme is that you go slowly and that you don't make a large sudden change. And if your vet is like, hey, your cat is a chunk, they need to lose some weight, you don't try and start them on a weight loss journey at the same time that you are doing this, because that is a good way to end up with a very crabby cat, and a cat that is absolutely like, I don't know what a step above hangry would be, like hang rage.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that one.
I need to come up with that one.
Rageful might just be it.
Yeah, it's just raging. You're filled with rage. You're gonna end up with a cat that is not having a good time. And again, this is not saying anything like, this does not, if your vet is like, there's a reason you need to like make the change more rapidly, listen to them. They know what they're doing. This is general and not meant to be like veterinary advice or anything like that. But like, again, from a behavior standpoint, typically going slower with any changes and not making like the reduction in calories and the change in the schedule at the exact same time is going to be a little bit less stressful because it's less changes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about for free feeding? I know that's a very hard one to overcome, because your cat is having to go from just being able to eat or nibble whenever they want to having a meal and they have to eat it. They're supposed to eat it, like, all at the same time. How do you handle that?
Okay, so free feeding is a little bit harder. So first thing you want to do is you want to figure out like how much total are they eating throughout the day and get close to that amount, because chances are if they're free feeding, they're going to have enough leftovers.
Yeah.
And you want to figure out like, okay, how much food did they get? Um, and you want to try starting out by giving them just that amount or getting close to the amount that they would like run out or only have a little bit left. And then you want to start changing the timing of when you fill the bowl. So again, if you go and you just scoop every time it's empty, I would start being like, okay, I'm going to fill it twice a day. And even if it starts getting empty, you start out only filling it twice a day. And then you split that into 3 times a day. But you adjust the total amount that they're getting per feeding based on how many times you're getting. So if you're giving them a cup per day, you'd start out half a cup twice a day, and then you do a third of a cup twice a day, and then you do a fourth of a cup, or sorry, not twice a day, third of a cup 3 times a day, fourth of a cup 4 times a day. And you gradually transition that. Looking for, is your cat seeming, like, are they developing any, even if it doesn't seem related to the food, behavior concerns, or are they showing signs of stress, or are they guarding their food, or like, is there anything that seems off that would be a sign that, they're not handling this well, and adjust based on that.
Yeah.
So again, go slowly.
Yeah. That's the overall theme with the schedule change. Anytime you're making a feeding schedule change, it needs to be done gradually.
Yep. And with free feeding, again, I know some people will be like, okay, I give them like a cup once a day, or like however much, like once a day. And so that, like approximately how much they're getting.
Yeah.
It really does depend on how you're doing it, because you don't want them to starve, and you don't want to make too sudden of an adjustment, but you also you don't want to just like sit there paralyzed and not take any action. And your cats will let you know if they're hungry.
Yes, they will.
Isn't that right, boys?
I've got one meowing at me right now, in fact. It is almost their lunchtime. So
I intentionally was like, okay, I'm going to feed these 2 right before we recorded, because I was like, otherwise they're going to.
Yeah. Well, so I know that a common issue for people with feeding multiple meals a day is if they have a traditional job where they're not home. I think myself, I work from home. I'm home. My husband and I, we're home all the time. And I assume that you probably are as well. And so it's easy, to feed multiple times a day. If someone has a traditional job when they're not home, are the scheduled feeders, the automatic feeders, is that the solution to that?
It is the easiest solution.
Yeah.
Like they can be a helpful tool, and they can really like make not only your life a lot easier, but they're beneficial to the cat because they're predictable. The cat is like, their schedules can be very consistent. You just have to make sure that it doesn't get clogged, or like it doesn't like, again, like it has backup battery in case power goes out, or that like you can't just like set it up and forget it. Like you have to pay attention to making sure that like food is actually coming out of it. But that really is a helpful way of addressing that problem. And there's no reason you can't do an automatic feeder for some meals and then manually feed your cat for other meals. They're not all or nothing. If that's not in your budget, or not something you want to do, or you have any number of other reasons why you wouldn't want to do an automatic feeder, I have been saying this a lot lately. I don't know why, but perfect is the enemy of good. We are going to do our best, and it doesn't have to be exactly like evenly spaced meals. So if you feed cats like first thing in the morning, they get food, and then right away when you get home, and then, middle of evening, or like right before you go to bed, or even you do a small meal right when, right away when you wake up before you get going, or after you have coffee, as the case may be. and then you do another one right before you leave for work, and then you do a meal right when you get home and right before bed.
Yeah.
That can work too. You could try a puzzle feeder to slow things down, so then they have to think a little bit, and like their food it's out, but like they're not gonna just eat it like they normally would, and it's there to give them a little bit of like thinking and mental stimulation while you're gone too. That can work. But I'm not gonna lie, the auto feeder does kind of make everything a lot easier, where you can get really precise with exactly the time that you do that, and then it's consistent even on the weekends too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for that middle of the day meal, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be all one way or all the other. Like you could feed a meal before work and have just one scheduled with the automatic feeder while you're at work, and then all the rest of your meals you're actually like feeding manually yourself.
Yep. And that, again, I've had a lot of people who they've got wonky schedules, or like they've got like, again, jobs that like they have really long shifts when they are out of the home, and the automatic feeder really does help them not have to worry as much about that, and not have to worry as much about like giving their cats like they don't have to worry as much about their cats getting like hangry, or like not being like trying to feed them like too much in a short period of time, to the point where it's like, okay, this is basically, you're just giving them like this is basically the equivalent of like one meal, even if you're doing it in like 3 parts, where if you're feeding them every 10 minutes, it's like they barely had time to digest that.
Yeah. What about as cats age? So like kittens, adult cats, seniors, do you find that a different schedule is best for like different life stages?
So I tend to I've noticed with senior cats in particular, they sometimes will prefer like pecking at their food a little bit, where the smaller meals portion of it becomes even more important. And typically older cats, you're going to probably reduce how much they're eating anyway, because they may not be quite as hungry or energetic. I encourage people, like regardless of life stage, to listen to their cat and see kind of what their behavior is like. And if they're seeming like they're not eating all of their food, first of all, if it's too drastic of a drop off, like definitely like talk to your vet about that, because there could be all sorts of different things that are going on. But like typically what I've seen, like with my own cat, my last cat Zoloft, as he got older, he started having less like he wanted to be fed more frequently but smaller amounts, and that ended up working well, because that's kind of what I did anyway. But I just did even smaller amounts and spread it out a little bit more, and worked perfectly. I tend to see that happen a little bit more as cats get older, where they'll decrease. Kittens, they need a lot of energy, because they are tiny nuclear power plants, and they're also growing, but they are also tiny nuclear power plants of energy. So
They are.
with them, you want to just be making sure that you're getting enough in them, because otherwise it can lead to all sorts of problems. So I tend to tell people, like, make sure you work with your vet on like specifically like how much they're getting, and making sure that they are getting enough. But like they may need, again, similar smaller meals that are a little bit more frequent, or some of them will be like, okay, just leave it out and I'll eat it when I need to. So
Yeah, they're like we have a kitten right now. Well, he'll be 1 in March. So, and it's January now, so he's I get 10 months, and he is a nuclear ball of energy.
yep.
And he likes to eat. I feel like I can't feed him too much. It's like, here's more, because you burn that off so fast.
So fast.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. As opposed to my seniors who, they're not burning it off as fast.
And it's not abnormal to see that. Like, it's something that again, as cats get older, they'll be like, you know what, I'm not as like all over the place, and they just
Mhm.
don't need quite as much food, and
Yeah.
they'll let you know. Listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to our cats. That is should be like our life motto.
Hmm.
With
Does make life a lot
everything.
easier.
They tell us. They tell us when something is not right. We have to listen.
Yeah, we have to, it's our job to interpret and to like receive the communication from the cats.
Yes, and be willing to make the change.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we've covered a lot of ground. If someone is listening to this and feeling like, "Oh no, I've been feeding my cat wrong for years." What reassurance can you offer them?
So this is very common, like that people, when I talk with them, one on one, when if they're a client, or just like anytime I talk with people about like their cat or their behavior or how they're doing things, it is very easy to accidentally do something wrong while still having good intentions, or doing things because it's what worked for a different cat, or because like it's the way things have always been done. And you are doing your best, and you are doing the best with the knowledge that you have, and with the knowledge that we have collectively as society. And it is something that it's very normal to make mistakes. Like it's very normal to do things that are not, like the best that you could be. And like I said, the twice a day feeding, it is so common that that
Yeah.
is happening. That like you are far from the only person that's done that wrong, or that
Yeah.
like you are not alone in that.
No.
And again, how would you know better? You're not a cat.
Yeah.
You aren't, you don't inherit like all the knowledge, or inherit all of the knowledge of the cats. Like the universe doesn't come and like infuse your brain with that when you're born or anything like that.
That would
It
be
would make
nice if
sense.
it did though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd be like, man, could have spent a lot less time like reading, and studying behavior, like if I just knew it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not how things work. But and also along those lines, like things change, like our knowledge of how cats are, like as we
Right.
get more science and like we study cats more, and like we start thinking about things on a different level, like our knowledge base changes from what it was. And again, back in the day, it used to be like, here's a bunch of food for the cat, like leave them home alone for like
Oh
a week,
yeah.
they're fine. And now we know, no, that's probably not a good idea. um
Yeah.
Again, this is something that we used to think like, oh yeah, just feed them twice a day, and we're now like, oh wait, like they actually do better. You can't, do better until you know better, and now you hopefully are feeling equipped with the knowledge to be able to make that change. And again, you're doing your best. Like there's, like you're not doing it intentionally probably. And if you are, that's maybe a problem, where you're like, ha ha ha, I'm going to torture my cat. That maybe is a little bit of an
That's a
issue.
different
That's a
issue.
different topic. Like that's for next time we meet, is that we talk about that, because that woof. You probably need like a different something besides a podcast, for that particular issue. But you're doing the best you can. And again, you don't have to be perfect. Nothing wrong with that. Like all you can
Yeah.
do is learn and try and change and adjust based on new information that becomes available.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that's so true in like all facets of life, right? We
Hmm.
can't when we know better, we can do better. And I mean, if I look back to the cats that my family had when I was a kid, they were free fed. They ate only kibble, and when we went out of town, we would put a big bowl of food on the floor and leave them for days at a time.
Hmm.
And I mean, yeah, my cats survived, they had a life, and I mean, I think they had a happy life for the most part, but obviously it wasn't perfect, it wasn't ideal, but we didn't know, I we didn't know. And as, I've become an adult on my own, have my own cats, I've researched and learned and made changes, and that's the only way it can be done. You learn and you change.
Yeah, it's, again, all you can do is try and do better. And if you've done something that like less than ideal, okay, we move on and we try and change what we can change the future, but not the past.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good way to look at it.
Totally.
Well, Joey, this has been amazing. I have really had a great time talking about cupcakes. I'm hungry now. I definitely feel like after this, I'm gonna have to run to Publix, which thankfully is a mile from my house, and go get some cream cheese cupcakes.
I know. I'm like, where is the nearest dessert place that has like dessert or like cupcakes that I can go and get myself some carbohydrates? Because oh man, now I can't stop thinking about them.
Yeah. You set us on a path. And here we are. But thank you so much for sharing all of your experience and knowledge. If someone wanted to talk more with you about how you can help them and their cats with a variety, because you don't just help with this, right? You do all of the things.
I do all the things. Yeah, I can help with lots of cat behavior concerns that people have. I mean, the most common one I see is inter-cat conflict, because that's hard to fix.
Yeah.
But like, I see litter box issues. I see ingesting non-food objects. I see aggression towards humans. I see, again, all sorts of things. I've seen some weird things. Like cats will surprise you. But I am easiest place to find me is my website, classactcats.com. I also have my blog on there. My award-winning blog. I won a couple of awards from the Cat Writers Association last year, so just have to include that little bit now, because
that's right. Hey, me too. We both did it.
This is our winning awards dance.
Yes.
I'm
Where are
on
balloons.
Yeah, let's do the.
Oh, whoa! You got lasers that time. I'm sorry for those who are listening to the audio podcast. You need to go over to YouTube and watch the video because
there were just
it's
some
more
lasers
entertaining.
But yeah, I'm on YouTube, Class Act Cats. I'm on Instagram, Class Act Cats, Facebook, Class Act Cats, Pinterest, Class Act Cats, TikTok, but I don't post a lot on TikTok, Class Act Cats. I did not get creative with my usernames.
That's not the place to be creative. Well, that's awesome. Very easy to find, and as you can tell, very helpful. So contact Joey with your cat behavior needs.
Happy to help. There's no reason you have to do it alone. Cats are confusing and weird, and that's part of why we love them, but also it can be hard if you're like, oh, my cat is peeing on my couch constantly. What do I do about this?
Yeah, not a good problem.
No. You can start by trying to feed them multiple small meals spread throughout the day and see if that helps, but it may not solve everything. But that way we skip right over that and we can go for like, okay, we're addressing the other parts of it. And you've already done the like step one.
Yes. Step one is done. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Joey. This is great.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun. Thank you for giving me a chance to shout this at the world, because it's a very, very, it's something that like, it seems like a small change, but it can have a huge difference with people's cats.
Right. And it's one that's, like we said earlier on, that it's not a problem that most people realize is a problem. You know, it's not the obvious one.
Yeah. It's not, they're peeing outside the box and you've got litter that they don't like.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thanks again, Joey. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have cupcakes. And
next time we should do like a baking with baking.
Right. That's right.